We all live in a gagistocracy, a gagistocracy, a gagistocracy.
Do something bad to us, we are going to do things to you that have never been done before.
We the people tell the government what to do. It doesn't tell us. We the people are the driver. The government is the car. And we decide where it should go and by what route to do. We the people are free. And I hope we have once again reminded people that man is not free unless government is limited.
Well, howdy, folks. How are you? I hope you're having a very nice kind of, is it Thursday today or is it Wednesday today? I get my days awfully mixed up. Wednesday. Trust you're having a good one. Not working too hard and keeping out of the heat. Apparently, it's been pretty hot down south. We'll find out more about that shortly. Cacistocracy. Look it up. It is a real word. And I couldn't think of a better word to describe the Australian government. It is a cacistocracy. What does it mean? It means government run by the worst people. Shit people running shit government. Now, you can change that if you're one of these people, like I have been very known to be, who doesn't vote. Then maybe you can weaponize your vote and change that, figure out who you're going to give it to, and make sure you give it to a group with power. Now, at the moment, that would tend to be a group that are running around and waving that flag just a bit, and it's certainly a hell of a wave they're riding. Vince is doing a number of interviews with all the South Australian candidates for the South Australian state election coming up in March. And there are a number of One Nation candidates. He's already spoken to one of them, and I believe that there's more on the horizon soon. That's over on the FBN Media channel. Keep an eye on that if you're in South Australia. And, of course, South Australia will be a very important election for One Nation, and it will, in some respects, dictate what they do going forward. But based on figures like this, they are on the lift, but we are a long way out from the election. And, well, we'll talk about it later. But the way Anthony Albanese's government is going at the moment, along with a number of other Labor governments around Australia, that may not get to see the end of these terms. There is too much corruption going on, and the people are starting to kick back. And that is because we live in a cacistocracy.
We all live in a gagistocracy, a gagistocracy, a gagistocracy.
Don't ask me why I made it. It just felt good. Anyway, let's get into tonight's show. A lot of people have been asking questions because of silver and gold, the way it's gone up, the way it's gone down. How do you protect your wealth? And more particularly, how do you make sure that that protected wealth, when you think it's protected, actually stays that way? The government has some changes coming up to trust laws and associated other things. And of course, when we want to figure out how to protect our wealth in the best way, we get the best possible people. And of course, that would be Catherine Smith from Freedom Financial Solutions. G'day, Cass. Nice to have you in the show. And joining us tonight from Truth Seekers is Doris. How are you, darling? Lovely to have you on the show. Oh, you're muted. You're going to have to unmute yourself. Oh, no, or your microphone's died for some reason. Can I hear you, Cass?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
Can you hear me?
Yep, got you fine. But for some reason, Doris, your microphone has... Oh,
Not.
now I heard you.
Oh,
Say
okay.
something.
Right.
Yep, whatever you did then, you twitched and it came to life. Well done.
I just
So,
touched
ladies,
the...
thank you very much for taking some time tonight to join us. Cass, you're the professional, and Doris, you've been through the ringer. The financial system has had a pretty good go for people who aren't aware. You've had your house stolen from you through the banking system, but that's not really the reason we're here tonight to talk with Cass. What little wealth you have left, you're very interested in protecting, as are many people. And I've had a lot of people question me in the last few weeks about how to protect their wealth against bad decisions made by children, marrying stupid people. And I've said there is only one person you can talk to about this, and that is Cass Smith. So I guess, ladies, let's go at it. Cass, you are doing a trust that is called a bloodline trust, and I guess, Doris, you've got some questions about it. Do you want to kick it off?
I do. Thanks, Cass, for joining us. We've been
Yeah,
talking,
no.
about what's been happening and how to best protect ourselves, I suppose. We really want to understand this from the ground up and help people, families make informed decisions. So we'll start off with some simple questions. So for anyone that doesn't know anything about trusts, and for those of us who are watching and have never heard of what a trust is, what is a trust in simple terms?
Yeah. I will preface the whole thing about the bloodline trust. I can't make it simple. It's taken me 30 years to understand it, but I'll do my best. But I'll start with basic trust. So what is a trust? Trusts have been around since the 1600s. So people have argued that the government's going to crack down on trusts and change trusts, etc. I wrote in a thesis paper when I did my Masters of Tax Law. I don't know why I did that, but 25 years ago, I did a Masters in Tax Law. And my thesis was actually on trusts. And I argued at the time that the government can never change them because there's actually two reasons. The first is they go back to the 1600s and they are set in equity law since the 1600s. Even our tax department and all the bullshit they make up would have a bit of trouble changing that law. The second reason they won't change the law is this is the structure that all of the wealthy since the 1600s, the bloodlines that own the farmland, that controlled everything, this is what they use to protect their wealth. And the current elites and the royals and everyone like that, this is how they protect their wealth. And what is a trust? So it's a really, I have to explain it visually. So let's say I've got this pen and it's worth, it's my family heirloom, it's solid gold, and I'm in the 1600s and I'm going off to war. I want someone to look after this pen for my kids. So I hand it to you, Doris. Say, Doris, can you hold this for me? If I don't come back from war, you're in charge of this and you're going to use it for the benefit of my kids.
Sure.
That is a trust. That's it. I've just given you something and asked you to look after it on my behalf. It doesn't even have to be in writing to create a trust. That's what a trust is from the very beginning. However, since then, it has evolved into very complex paperwork and terminology and things and law. But that's the fundamental, is somebody's holding something for someone else.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Clear as mud? Clear as mud?
No. Well, then I have a question. Does there have to be an intermediary in that process between me and whatever is held in that trust?
Yes, there has to be three people. And mind you, I'm also talking about the standard trust that we use for the tax department. I'm not talking about all the private trusts and PMAs and all the other things that have popped up. We can talk about them, but you might not like the discussion. So three parties. There has to be a set law, there has to be a trustee, and there has to be a beneficiary. And the set law is the person who gave you the pen. No, sorry, I need to change this. I've just done yoga. My brain's a bit mushy. There's four people. There's the settlor, the appointor, the trustee, and the beneficiary. The settlor is basically nothing going into the future. They sign the original paperwork and then they step away and they don't have any future role. But technically, they are the ones that give the pen. Okay. Then the appointor, is the person that is totally in control. And this is where some people mix things up in trust, because a lot of people think the trustee is in control. But the appointor is the one in control, because they are the ones that can sack the trustee and change the trustee, change the beneficiaries, do anything at any time. The trustee's power is very, very limited to what the appointor is allowing them to do. Okay, so the appointor is the key. The trustee is just the person who's put their hand up and said, yeah, okay, I'll look after that for you.
I'll look after
And then
the
the beneficiary is the person that
keep the pen. Is that right?
No,
The
settlor's
settlor
given
is the one
to the trustee.
Right.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah, So
So
income
you'd
tax.
want to make some really good decisions about who you're going to be actually appointing as the appointer.
Most families, it's really, really simple. So therefore, I can put the terminology into plain words by using an example of just a mum and dad. All right, mum and dad, 4 kids. Okay. So in this case, they're going to go to someone like me as an accountant and say, can I have a trust? I'm going to, yeah, sure, I'll be your settlor. Technically, I am meant to give them $10, and they meant that $10 in the bank account to create the trust. Technically, we should do that. So I'm the settlor, I'm the accountant who sets up the paperwork. And then the appointor, which is mum and dad, says to themselves as mum and dad, hey, can you hold this on trust for my 4 kids? So mum and dad are the appointor, the trustee, and the kids are the beneficiaries.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all complicated, but at the end it comes down to that. There are other structures where you might want to, say, for example, the appointor wants somebody else to manage it on behalf of the kids. They might appoint Harry,
An uncle or an auntie or
they
something.
might appoint a family friend. But the appointor, going back again, the appointor holds all the power.
Sorry. Sorry.
The appointer holds all the power. I'll just finish that example. The appointer holds all the power because let's say the appointer said, oh, Jack, you're my friend. I'm going overseas. Can you be my trustee for a while I'm overseas? Mm-hmm. So now Jack is looking after the money for the kids. But the appointer can come back and say, all right, Jack, see you later. Thanks for that. I'm back now. Okay. Sorry, back to your question.
You would probably set something like that up for minor kids. Is that correct? Until they reach the age of... No? No.
It's for all. What I'm saying to everyone now is the only way to get around some of the taxes that I believe are coming is to have everything you own in the trust, and it is for benefit of all your kids, regardless of ages, preferably right until but mum and dad die, and the adults take it. It's still in the trust. And then if I had my way and people listened to me, they would keep it in the trust, not just for this generation, but next generation and the generation to come. Hence comes the term bloodline, because it's to the exclusion of anyone that's not in your bloodline.
So can I ask a question here? If mum and dad die and leave the house in the trust, that's to the benefit of the siblings, all, let's call it 2 or 3 children. Now, one of those children finds a house that they want to live in or they want to go and buy. They have ostensibly an asset or a share in an asset. Do they go to the trust and say, in a bloodline trust way, do they go to the trust and say, I want to buy this house? Can the trust buy this house for me and I'm going to live in it and pay whatever the appropriate rate is to pay for the house? Is that how a bloodline trust would grow its asset base, for instance?
Yeah, absolutely. The beneficiaries then continue to keep the money in the trust, continue to invest it. They could sell the property, buy bullion, they could do whatever they want, keeping it all hopefully in the trust, because there's fantastic asset protection advantages and tax advantages.
Okay. Now, Mark, sorry, Doris, you've got 2 pages of questions. I just think of them as they come along. So you go ahead. So
who owns the assets inside the trust? Ultimately, it's for the benefit of the beneficiaries, right? And that kind of brings me to the point of you'll own nothing and be happy because
but you won't own them. The parents have given up their right to own them. The trust now owns them. So that is the whole you'll own nothing and be happy because you don't own anything anymore.
Yep.
You still got the same house, you're still living in it, but it's now in the trust and you don't own it.
And Carl just brought up something about a home. And we know that there are advantages in capital gains tax when it comes to your primary residence. What happens when that gets transferred into the trust, though? How does that work?
This is where it's going to get more complicated. And I've already seen one comment that it's about as it's very complicated. In the case of a home, in the case of an asset like your home that we want to protect the capital gains tax exemption, and the stamp duty on the cost of the transfer, and the land tax.
Yes.
We don't actually transfer the title of the house to the trust.
Mm-hmm.
We gift the equity in the trust and create a loan so that there's no equity in the trust anymore. That all that equity is owed to the trust. Told you it would get complicated. But that is the way we get around the whole, and it's perfectly legal. This has been going on for decades.
Mm-hmm.
I've known about
Right.
this strategy for decades. So yeah, that's how it's done. But it's very complicated for people who, it's hard enough to understand basic trusts, but now I'm throwing at you the number one technical strategy that has been developed by a lawyer that's been in this field for 30 plus years, specializing in asset protection, and me as an accountant who's been in it for 30 years, specializing in trusts. So, and even me, it took me quite a while to get my head around that. So yeah, I don't expect anybody to understand that. I mean, and that's why you come to
But
us.
it makes sense. It does make sense. But is it more about protection, tax planning, or succession, or all of the above?
All of the above. So they've been around for decades, mainly used for tax planning and asset protection from spouses, ex-spouses, not so much spouses, but in when what am I talking about? Your adult child gets married. She's lovely, fantastic. All of a sudden, 10 years later, they're broken up and she's after his assets. It's for that sort of asset protection. Now, and the reason I've come back and strongly promoting these trusts is the proposed, or I can't say it's proposed, the plan behind the scenes inheritance tax that I believe will come in the May budget, or maybe after, but I would not be surprised. I think Albo is on such a losing streak that, and I've seen governments do this before, where he knows he's in trouble in the next election. So he's going to throw all the bad laws at us before he gets voted out. And if that's the case, I'm expecting the May election to be a ballser. I'm a really nerd accountant, and I've actually watched every federal election, the whole hour on TV, every single
Budget
year of
speech,
my life. I'm so excited it's budget night, because the fine detail of the things they say is far more important than all the freaking press summaries and everything that carry on for the next week or two. There are words that they say that, because I've been in this field for 30 years, as soon as I hear that, I go, oh shit. And then what I pick up in watching the budget speech doesn't actually come to law till like 12 months later, but that's the night they plan it, and I watch it with bated breath. And I think this one's going to be a huge one, and I believe they will be bringing in a death tax, which is basically, they call it inheritance tax, so it doesn't sound so bad, but basically it is when you pass on and you want to pass your assets to your adult children, they want to take 30 to 40% of it. And it makes my blood boil, because we work our whole lives. We get taxed on every penny we make. We get taxed on every penny we spend in the GST system. And then we manage to save some. We pay interest on all that debt for so many years, but we manage to get some property when we die. And now they want to take 30 to 40% of it. It's blood curdling.
Yeah.
What are some of the practical responsibilities that come with the trust?
Yeah, there's a lot on the trustee. They're the ones that will be carrying the load.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bit like being a director of a company. People think the director's got all the power, but they're not. The director's the patsy. The director's the one taking all the responsibility and signing things. God knows what will happen to them if they do something wrong. So the trustee is in that position. They have a lot of responsibilities. But then, having said that, the trustee is normally mum and dad. So they're going to do everything, mum and dad looking after it for the kids. So, of course, they're going to do everything in accordance with looking. The main role of the trustee is to look after it on behalf of the beneficiary. So if you go and spend it or do anything bad with it, you're breaking trust law. And
obviously, to set one up, there was a comment that I wanted to kind of touch on, but to set one up, it requires a professional document of some sort, not only naming who, what, and how, but some of the rules, right? And that everyone agrees to.
Yeah, exactly. So And that's what
Some-
accountants do. We've been doing it.
The comment that I
Yes.
wanted to kind of touch on was, is it registered?
Depends. It depends whether you what you're going to do with the trust. So if the trust is running a business, the government say that you should register it with an ABN.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're running a business, then the government say you should have a TFN. And then once you have those things, you've got to lodge taxes and do all that sort of thing. If the trust is just holding a property, it's then not running a business. It doesn't need an ABN and it doesn't need to lodge tax returns. Therefore, it doesn't need to be registered on anything.
Okay.
It's effectively private.
So
only
if the trust holds a property and a classic car collection that might be worth $3 or $4 million, and a stamp collection, then all that can be held in the trust, those kinds of assets?
Yeah, absolutely. And you still won't need an ABN or a TFN because you're not trading, you're not making an income. So therefore, you're not required to have a tax file number. So therefore, you're not required to register on anything.
What about bullion then?
Yeah, you can hold bullion in it, no problem.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of our trusts do.
What happens to any of the gains that come along with
that's when things get more complicated. So what I was saying is that the government, that you're not required to get a tax file number until you make some income. Once you make a gain, or maybe you get some interest in the bank, or you get some sort of income or crypto, and you've sold it or sold bullion, you've now made an income, and the government would say that you now need a tax file number and you now need to lodge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This is a complete curveball, but I haven't managed to say this on any podcast yet, so I'd love to say it. If you Google or look up tax law, or for those of you that use the devil and use ChatGPT, and if you ask ChatGPT, where is the requirement in the income tax law to have a tax file number? And it will actually tell you there is no law requiring anyone to have a tax file number.
What does it tell you about the requirement to pay tax?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that gets us a whole another convoluted conversation. We better get back to trust, or I could be here all night. Maybe we'll run that show another day.
What happens if one of the people in the trust goes into debt, Cass?
That's no problem, because the trust assets are all in the trust. The beneficiary can do whatever they want. Or do you mean the trustee?
Just one of the beneficiaries of the trust, I gather. But Vince has put another one up. Can the trustee also be a beneficiary?
Yeah. And let's make it even more strange. The most common trust I have set up in the last 30 years has been mum and dad as the trustee. Mum and dad is the appointer to start with. Mum and dad decide to set up a trust, and they're an appointer. Mum and dad are the trustee, and mum and dad are the beneficiaries.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay. Yep.
That's the most common. And then the bloodline is that mum and dad are the beneficiaries. So when mum and dad die, everyone in there, like all their kids and grandkids and everything, are in there by default because they're part of the bloodline.
And because all of those beneficiaries can't be listed by name because they haven't been born yet in some cases.
Exactly.
So is that based on, that's why it's called a bloodline trust, a DNA essentially?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that means that the progeny of the husband and wife, or the daughter who marries a dickhead, and 10 years later, after he's done nothing but take money from her or live off the family fortune or whatever, he decides he wants a divorce and wants to take her for half the house and half of everything else, has no chance.
No can do.
Yeah.
And that has been tested in court in quite a big case, where exactly that scenario, except it was the woman after the man's assets, and the court upheld that no, this is a bloodline trust specifically set up by your father for your bloodline only. Sorry, Mrs. No way.
Yeah. But the children would have access to it.
Yeah,
because
bloodline.
They are part of the bloodline. Yeah.
It cuts out the step kids too. I mean, I should say that you can include people. So it excludes prima facie everyone who's not bloodline, but you can include and say, oh, hang on, but I do actually like that step kid, so I'll put him in.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is it an irrevocable trust?
Yeah.
Yeah, good question. No, they're not. For a specific reason. When we set these up, the most common question is, well, what if I decide to sell the house and do something else, and can I wind it up? It's like, yeah, absolutely. So you put it all in, but I mean, the idea is it's irrevocable. Why would you do it and then change your mind? Because you can keep the assets in the trust your whole life, so you wouldn't revoke it. But the power is there that you can if you want to.
The idea would be to add assets to the trust, wouldn't it, rather
Constantly,
than
yeah.
sell it
And
off?
then hopefully even the next generation adds the assets.
Yes.
That's what the royals do. If you think about everything they own would be in probably multiple trusts, but they're all bloodline. Nothing ever passes through their actual hands. It just comes down through the sequential bloodline.
And that's why they don't lose anything. What is the difference between a trust and a will? That's a question that often gets asked.
Two separate, completely different things.
Mm-hmm.
So a trust is something anybody can set up anytime. It's a very common, some people use it to run a business. It's been around for a long time. It's just a vehicle. It's just like a company. It's its own entity. A will is a document that tells your executors what you want to happen after you're dead.
So, a lot of people don't realize that a will can be challenged in court. Can a trust also be challenged?
No, and that's one of the big reasons people do it as well. So once we've moved the assets out of your hands, they're now in the trust. In your will probably just be your personal bank accounts, maybe a car, maybe your furniture. All your major assets will now be in the trust, and the trust can't be challenged. So someone can go and challenge your will all they want, but there'll be nothing in it.
Now, you did talk about running a business through the trust. How is that taxed? Is it taxed any different to the normal way that a business usually gets taxed?
Yeah, and this is why a lot of people have used trust for as long as I can remember, because you can put all the income into a trust, and let's say the income is $200,000 at the end of the year. As the trustee, you get to sit down and go, oh, okay, well, I might distribute that to Joe and some of that to John and some of that to Peter and Paul, who are all on really low tax brackets, and then there's no tax. So trusts have always been used as a tax planning tool. The tax department are trying to attack a lot of things, and things have changed a bit, but fundamentally they're still the best tax planning vehicle we've got, other than self-managed super.
And it really is about reducing that income level, so you don't either get taxed or get taxed at the higher rate.
Correct.
Okay.
If people are wondering how much this sort of thing costs, Cass, I think we should start out by saying, scroll back in the chat and say, and read a few of the comments there about how difficult this is, how much knowledge there is to learn, and you know what the problems are if you don't know this knowledge, or you have somebody set up something essentially for the rest of your life and they don't know what they're doing. So there is a cost to doing this, and the bloodline trust is something that is going to not just protect the assets that you have today, but the assets for life for your blood relatives. And to set that up is not something that you can do overnight. And I don't think ChatGPT sets one up, does it yet, Cass, all by itself?
Shit, no. And ChatGPT is so wrong on these things, it's not. But yeah, so to the cost, like an average trust, before all of the complexities that I'll move on to, for the last 20 years I've been setting them up. They used to cost $1,500. Then they were $2,200. Now we do them for $3,500 because of all the bloody shit the government's thrown at us. So $3,500 for your basic trust. So that's actually not too expensive. What is expensive
is that claimable? Is that claimable?
No, it's a capital cost.
Right.
What is expensive then next is if someone's already got their own home and they want to protect the capital gains tax and the stamp duty and the land tax issues, don't want bad outcomes. Instead of transferring the home, we do this gift and loan back. The gift and loan back is the expensive part. It's a bit like going to a bank and drafting up huge mortgage documents. So the gift and loan back is about $7,000. So your average couple for these bloodline trusts to protect against the inheritance tax, you're up for 10 grand. But I want to put that in more perspective. we're doing it like for my whole life, last 20 years, I've known about these bloodline trusts and how expensive they are and complicated and blah, blah, blah. So for 20 years, I've said, yeah, no, look, I don't think the average mum and dad needs this. Other accountants would talk them into it, but I'd be like, yeah, no, I don't. You know, you've just got your own home. Just leave it where it is. You don't need a trust. If they needed a trust for investment property or business, yeah, sure. But if you want a trust for your own home, it's like, yeah, no, it's not really worth it. Until it dawned on me in August last year that they're bringing in this inheritance tax. And then all of a sudden it was like, holy shit, everyone out there with a property needs this thing. Because, like, let's just look, the average property value of $1 million, it's probably 1.5 or 2. Let's just say it's $1 million. That 10,000 is a very small proportion of that 1 million. My maths brain isn't working. Is it 1% or 10%? 1%.
1%.
1%. So that's not that expensive. But then multiply that. You're not going to die for maybe 30 years. That property will now be 10 million. Now think of 30 to 40% of that. And then think of all the future generations. And that $10,000 now becomes like not even minuscule.
Yeah.
Drop in the ocean.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Can the government go back and change the laws regarding bloodline taxes when they discover that people have their assets locked up in them?
Good question. We never know what they're going to do.
And lawless government will do what the hell it likes.
But it comes back to what I said about trusts have been around since the 16th century, so it's very hard for them to change fundamentals of trusts. They can play around with the edges, but the main thing I want to point, or two main things. Firstly, look, I'm only one person doing this, and I'll be lucky if I can set 200 clients up in this before the May budget. So they're not going to notice 200 clients in all of Australia. It's just not going to be on their radar to attack this. But the main reason I don't think they will is that where do you think their assets are?
In the same trust you're setting up.
So that's why they keep the exemptions on trusts and do try not to change them, because that's how they protect themselves.
So we did kind of hear about the changes that are coming or are being planned. You're mainly talking about the budget that's about to happen in May. There's no other government plan changes when it comes to these types of trusts?
No, not to trust. No, none.
Not to trusts. Okay.
Yeah.
So there's nothing going on legislatively where they're going to bring in any new laws, new regulations.
Not that I'm aware of. I've watched this space for 20 years, and every time anybody even suggests it, it gets knocked out pretty quick. Yeah.
How are you set up trust-wise if your house is still under a mortgage? Can you? Yeah,
that's fine. So I think if anyone that understands this stuff, I used a specific word. I said equity. I didn't say transfer the value. I said transfer the equity, which basically means the value less the mortgage.
Yeah, right. Yep. Okay, cool. I understand.
I did have one more question with regards to property, and that's the big land tax, right? If it is an investment, because would it be considered an investment since it is in the trust?
No. So once again, because we've left the title in the client's name, parent's name, exempt for capital gains, it's exempt for land tax, and we're not incurring the stamp duty.
Oh, so that's how you get around it.
That's how we get around it. And this is when the penny dropped for me. I was in a conference in Fiji learning the real technical detail of this. It was a mind-blowing conference, and they fed us all we could eat: breakfast, lunch, dinner, morning tea, and afternoon tea, and all we could drink at night. And yeah, but I did learn some things, and this was it, where the whole penny dropped, because we were there and there was about 50 very high-level accountants and tax lawyers that have specialised in this area for decades. And that was when the announcement, I don't know if people would recall, the unrealised capital gains tax.
Yes.
The government was trying to bring in to tax more than $3 million in super on unrealised gains. It was ridiculous. Never been, how the hell they dreamt that up, I have no idea. But anyway, we were in the Fiji conference. The announcement came that, Costello was withdrawn from it 50 of us accountants and lawyers in the room went, oh, shit, we better have a look at this. And we spent the whole afternoon dissecting that announcement. And that is when we all looked at each other and went, they've got something else planned.
Yeah,
Because
right.
the way they announced it, they threw away comments like, oh, you know, we've been so generous giving this away and it's going to cost the budget and we're going to have to find some other ways to come up with some tax. And they were saying things, and they were talking about a 30% tax and a 40% tax on superannuation and all of this. They were throwing around the 30%, 40% rates, which happens to be the most common inheritance tax rates across the world. So we all just sat there and went, yeah, this is a no-brainer. Inheritance tax is coming. And my bet is the May budget.
Aussie's Radio Half Hour's got a question. He's paid off the mortgage. How does he transfer the property title to a trust? But that's
so you
what
don't,
you said before.
Transfer the title. It stays in your name and you pay us to do all this paperwork. There's no other way of doing it.
Yeah. Simple enough.
Are there any annual regulations, requirements?
Yeah, look, that's optional. Because they're just holding the trust in the house in the trust, they don't technically have to report anything to anyone anywhere. But I've been doing this myself for my own family for 15 years. And I actually like having a financial statement done every year that I sort of go, oh, yeah, that's my house, that's my bullion, that's this, that's that. It interests the kids. Like I can show the kids and go, you know, that's where we're all up to. And when I'm dead, that's yours. So you can choose to have accounting done every year. And we do recommend it, but it's optional.
Mm-hmm. And that can be done through a normal accountant or
normal accountant or us. We're setting up a really cost price budget, just cheap and nasty accounting, because that's all that needs to be done. So it won't cost our clients. You know, we're thinking only maybe $700 a year or something like that to have that financial reporting done. A normal accountant will charge like $2,000 to $3,000. So.
Yeah. All right. So I should give up my land to my kid before this stuff comes in, is Peg's question.
Well, that is another option, and that is what some people do. And there's actually been newspapers this week about, don't do that, that's silly. I wonder why they're saying that.
I wonder why they're saying that.
But anyway, no, if you absolutely love your kids and trust them 100% that they're going to look after you to the day you die, by all means give the kids the properties now. And some people do. Would I do it with my kids? No way. I know my kids do well.
That's not very nice. You're going to wear the frying pan that Kiara's holding in the background there in a minute.
One of my questions was about the biggest mistakes families make, and that could be one of them.
The biggest. I can answer this one because this is something that I can get fired up about. Biggest mistake is not having a will and an enduring power of attorney. Because if you don't have a will and you die, the government step in, freeze all your bank accounts, freeze all your assets, and hold it all, potentially for a year or more, or a long time, and charge a shitload of fees. So who here wants the government to handle your assets when you're dead instead of going to your beneficiaries? You don't. Everyone has to have a will. And enduring power of attorney, believe it or not, is to me even more important. Because if you don't have an enduring power of attorney, people don't know this. You're in a car accident, you're being rushed to hospital, you're unconscious, or maybe in a coma. Your partner has no jurisdiction over your healthcare whatsoever. You get to the hospital and the hospital decide what they will do with you.
Yes.
You need an enduring power of attorney so that your partner, I said to a client today, they're like, yeah, I think I've got one of them. I'm like, that's not good enough. You need to have it and have it in your top drawer. Because if your partner's been rushed to hospital, that's the first piece of paper you grab so that you can run into the hospital and go, no, you can't do that. I have power of attorney. So that is a biggest mistake. And the power of attorneys, you can even do your own free power of attorney online. The states have them available. Everyone out there, either get us to do it if you don't want to do it yourself, or hop online and do it yourself.
Vince says his will has a living trust in it. Does that work?
Yeah, no, I'll have to talk to you a bit more detail about that. That's actually an oxymoron. It's a sovereign citizen type statement.
Right.
Your will comes into effect after you're dead, so you can't have a living will in your trust because you're dead.
Ah, yes.
Your will can set up a testamentary trust, and that might be what Vince is talking about. But it's not a living
Right.
trust because you're now dead. Sorry, I should not laugh at death, but I've been doing this a long time. I rushed home from university in my 19. I first heard about testamentary trusts, and I ran home to Mum saying, "Mum, Nan's going to die. You know, we need one of these." She didn't listen to me. She never does. Never will. But yeah, I've been fascinated in the concept of estate planning. Since my early teens.
If you sell your home, that's
Yeah.
trust, and you want to purchase another one, what happens then?
Yeah, that's all good. That's all just like accounting magic. So you'll sell the home, the money will go into the trust by way of the loan mortgage, and then the trust will lend you the money back under another loan by the next house. So it's just a bit of paperwork.
Would it require its own bank account?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Because technically that $10, that the set law right back in the beginning of the story, that $10 is meant to sit in a bank account to keep the trust. I mean, we never worry about that sort of technicality, but best to have a bank account and put some money in it.
Mm-hmm.
And most of our clients will, and what I'm passionate about is use the trust from now on in. Buy your bullion, buy your crypto, buy whatever you want in the trust. So therefore, yeah, you would want a bank account, and you'd be accumulating, putting any spare money you've got into it, and then buying future assets in the trust.
Is there somebody that would not fit the right, this type of structure? Are there any situations where this would just not be the right type of fit?
Obviously, if you haven't got assets to protect, you're not going to spend the money. The other thing we might struggle with, and we don't know yet because we're only just getting this all out to clients. Yeah, we might have clients that just find that this is just too complicated. And that's fine, because we have clients, I shouldn't say that, we have clients that do find it absolutely complicated, but because they trust us, they just go, look, just do it. Same with SMSF. We've got clients who know everything about SMSF and love it and do everything, they understand everything. We've got clients who go, where do I sign?
Yeah.
So it's not that it's too complicated, but if you're the sort of person that complications scare you and you start stressing and you're freaking, you're going, oh my God, I don't understand. I can't do this because I don't understand. I don't trust these people and I don't understand. Well, it's probably not for you.
Can I buy cars under a trust?
Yeah.
Yep.
But going through somebody like you would give your normal mum and dad some tools where they would be able to learn about how to best, I suppose, deal. This takes a little bit of organisation, wouldn't it? You would need to think ahead, not use, your personal bank accounts, right? You would need to make sure that everything is, I suppose, documented.
Yeah. So we have, and anyone out there that's set up an SMSF through us, you'll know how we do the SMSF. We're now doing the same thing for trusts. So we have a volume of information we give to clients, frequently asked questions, detailed analysis of how it works, free question and answer sessions, free meetings with me. We give everyone all the tools to either fully understand it or just go, yeah, just do it for us, Cass. So most clients are happy with that approach. They can decide for themselves how much they want to understand, how much they don't. So then for clients who say, no, I don't want to understand any of it, just where do I sign? We just have, step by step, go to the bank, open a bank account, put some money in it. And then basically the clients that have done this with us, we will sort of keep them close to us. So anytime they're doing another thing, like I'm buying a new house, I'm doing this, they just have a chat with us and we say, do this.
Does the trustee only deal with the settlor or appointee, or also with the beneficiaries?
Oh, all of them. You're looking after the money for the beneficiaries. I had someone today that she's looking at. Actually, this is a good scenario. So it was a lady, and her best friend passed away, and the best friend had just separated from the father of the kids, and she didn't want the father to have the money. So now this best friend is looking after $500,000 for the sake of the 5-year-old. So she's got till the kid's 18. So she's got many, many years ahead of her, where she is responsible of looking after that money. Obviously, she's not going to involve the 5-year-old in the decisions.
In those decisions.
Until the kid is, you know, a bit older and able to. And then, of course, as trustee, I would be asking the kids, you know, what do you want me to do with this money that I'm holding for you?
Can you put your SMSF in a trust that you create like this?
No, the SMSF stays completely separate.
Right. Okay. All right. Well, that makes
That
perfect
was
sense.
my next question.
We must be mind readers. Do you have another one, Doris?
Well, there are a lot that realistic expectations versus the myths when it comes to asset protection. Is there any that you usually that are often raised?
Yeah, so if you go to a specialist in this area, there shouldn't be any traps that you can fall into, because asset protection has been an industry in itself for a very, very long time. So, and every court case that comes up where something goes wrong, the lawyers learn from it and change the products and change the recommendations and the structures so that we're protecting every single step of the way. So these documents that we've got, and the lawyers that we work with, they do a whole lot of other things as well. They are really, really spot on because they've watched it for so long. We're at the state of the art of the case law of how to protect people. So, I mean, obviously, maybe there's 1% scenario that we haven't even thought of yet that might crop up in the future. But against all current law, we've got it covered.
Okay. So, Cass, if people have further, I mean, I don't want to fill your inbox with questions. Is there somewhere people can go to get initial basic questions answered? I mean, they figured out tonight how much it's going to cost in a basic sense. And if you want to go the whole bloodline trust thing, obviously each requires its own different conversations. I imagine that for the basic trusts, you have some people within the office that can help others with that. It doesn't have to be you because you're tied up with the bigger stuff at the moment, I know.
Yeah. So no, two easy ways. The first one is for clients that are really, really interested in proceeding. They simply book in on our website for there's an estate planning appointment with me. So they simply book it. It's 15 minutes. We send them a link to a video to watch. Hopefully they watch that before the appointment, and that way they've got all the information. Then I just explain it to their family. So that's the easiest way. It's a free appointment, 15 minutes. The alternative, if you're too scared to talk to me directly, is we hold a Q&A session at lunchtime every second week. It's always on our website right at the top, the next sessions we're running. You can pop on. There's normally always about 20, 30 people. And you just ask whatever you want. Ask it anonymously if you want, and get whatever information you need.
Yep. One last question from Debs. She wants to know what do you do if you've got no children?
Good question, and we have got clients in this scenario for sure. Some people have nieces and nephews or best friends, but if you truly don't have anyone, then you need to think of a good charity.
Voice of Freedom would be great.
No, Carl. You need to be a registered charity with the bloody government.
All right, the Donkey Sanctuary.
That brings me to say, the Donkey Sanctuary, if they're a registered charity. We have actually set up a charity. We haven't officially launched it yet. We've got it all set up and registered. We're launching it in June with Barbara O'Neill as one of our founders. And it's currently called, we're just about to change the name to Future Foundation Solutions. So basically it is, and we got it through the government on the basis that it was for helping people who have suffered medical negligence. I won't say what sort of medical negligence, but so we do have people, we've had one lovely man who's left us a lot of money. We haven't got it yet. He's not dead. Probably won't die for 10, 20 years. But we have set up that foundation for people in that scenario. Even if you want to leave us a bit, if you want to leave us a lot, that's fine. But we and Barbara O'Neill and a lot of other very trusted people, we haven't announced it yet, so I'm not announcing all the people, will look after it on behalf of those of us that need it.
Excellent. Excellent. Is there financial assistance for those who can't afford it, like a payment plan or something like that?
Yeah, payment plan, but it's not that, it's still a hard one. It's 50% up front and then payments over 6 months. Alternatively, I tell people just to go and get a personal loan or a credit card if they really want to get this done before May.
Yeah, and May is critical, isn't it? Because that's when the budget's coming out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a little bit of a hint here that we're contemplating leading up to May is there might be a way that we can only for $3,000 just get it set up enough before May, so that it's still going to be okay, and then we can worry about all the rest of it a little bit later. So that
$10,000 fee is actually made up of multiple different fees. That's just the total of all those fees put together. Because you've got to go jump through 27 different hoops at $7.50 each or whatever it works out at.
Yeah. So the fee for about $3,000, we can at least get the trust set up, which means the bank account, which means the $10 into the bank account, which effectively means it's set up before May.
Right. Yep.
I think Cass was mentioning something along the lines of $7,000 or thereabouts to transfer the equity of the property. So if you wanted to go down that way, did I listen intently there?
Yes.
Something of that nature. So right, a basic trust is about 3.5. Yes.
3.5. We still need that 7,000 to make it all work. But what I'm saying is, for 3.5, we could get it set up before May, so it's going to be compliant before May, and then proceed with the rest of the more expensive stuff when we get a chance
down the track. Yeah, but I suppose there'd be a time frame that it'll all have to be completed by. So, which is fair and reasonable, because you want the bloody thing set up and working before the government comes and tries and takes it all off you. So excellent. You got anything else, Doris?
I think we've covered quite a number of great questions, and obviously Cass has answered some of those, in-depth questions. So thank you very much.
It's okay. It is very complicated, so I apologise for anyone out there if it was too technical, but just no way to answer those questions without the technical detail behind it all.
No,
but I'm loving the fact that. Yeah, I'm loving the fact that you can actually, reach out to you, watch some videos, join a live session to learn some more, and to hear others also, talk and discuss. So there's more.
Yeah, I had effectively retired prior to this. I just didn't want anything to do with the whole financial world anymore. 30 years done enough. And after all the bullshit. So I was just sort of sitting around, Carl would know, enjoying my animals, but for some reason that all failed. So now I'm left with no animals to tend to and no crops to raise.
I know a couple of goats that are looking forward to seeing you.
I got a bit bored, and that's why I went to this conference in Fiji. And then when I sat there and just went, oh my God, my skills are needed back on the front line, because there's not many people that know trust as well as I do. So I went, all right, shit, I'm back to work until May at least. And I've been working up to 7 days a week ever since. So I went from retirement to, holy shit, working nonstop. But as I said at the beginning, it makes my blood boil. 30 to 40% of your assets when you die, your hard-earned assets, you've paid tax on your whole life, and now they want it. It's just criminal.
Yeah. One last question that Sunflowers put up. Did Cass say that the trust?
Yeah, anyone that you trust, and that's why they're called a trustee.
Yeah, beautiful. All right, Cass, thanks for joining us. Thanks for taking some time out tonight. I know you've had a big day and you're probably knackered, and hopefully Kiana has cooked your dinner and isn't about to tip it over your head for what you said earlier.
All right, well, thanks for that, guys. We'll see you again another time, and we should have a chat about tax itself someday, because I've been finding out some pretty interesting things.
Oh, beautiful. All right, well, we'll line that one up for our next chat. Brilliant.
All righty, see you guys.
All right, cheers. Thank you. And Doris, lovely to have you as part of the show. You don't have to shoot off yet if you're interested in checking out some of the rather interesting things that have been happening in the world over the last day or so. What can I show you first up, which I think is a little interesting? Barnaby Joyce has been out. Believe it or not, he is attracting votes in a drift car. That's him wearing a helmet. He was out over the weekend at a drifting event. He's getting out of a Nissan, or I think it's a Nissan Z350. The in-car camera of him shitting himself while being driven around in that is hysterical, but he came out of it, and I think he's probably won a few votes from the younger cohort, which is something One Nation very seriously chasing. It looks like Senator Babbitt isn't a big fan of the new leader of the Liberal Party when he's posting things like this. I mean, I've been calling her a white lady funeral director. I'm not quite sure what that makes him. But Babbitt is not a fan. Do you think Babbitt's already said he won't be recontesting? He's not going to stand up for United or Palmer United or Trumpeter Patriots or whatever group it was when he was elected. Do you think there's a chance he might come across to One Nation?
I don't know. Geez, there's a lot of that happening.
Well, there are a lot of people supposedly talking about defecting and going to One Nation. But
there's definitely talk, yes.
That's a good way of putting it. There's definitely talk, Doris. There's definitely talk. Speaking of things that people are talking about, and this is probably definitely worrying, just have a look at this. Now, these are Chinese robots. As you can see, they're pretty acrobatic, and you'll see some children in the background with them. Everything you're seeing these robots do is actually a martial arts movement. This is a martial arts dance. And if you can think of these robots not dressed up in a funny red and black costume, but in a military costume, and now look at this. So they come with weapons, as you saw there. I'm just going to speed it through because this is quite long. But toward the end, get a look at what comes out here towards the end of this. I turned the sound down a bit by this stage. Now it introduces the Overlord robot. Look how tall it is. Its face is very, very different. And it's twice the size of all the other robots. Now look what it's holding as well. Ceremonial sword. Land of the Giants. How would you like our boys to come across a couple of hundred of those running at you?
Super soldiers, hey?
Very definitely super soldiers. And that is the handing over from young to AI. I mean, that's pretty wild shit.
It sure
pretty
is.
Wild shit.
Sure is.
So that's China. And, of course, China make all the chips. They require an awful lot of silver. People have been saying, oh, my God, silver has died. Silver has died. Oh, it was so high. I've lost so much money. You've lost nothing unless you've gone and sold it. Okay, because the spot price ain't the price that you can buy silver for. And there is partly, well, one of the reasons that this week particularly has been pretty stagnant, if you like. And let me just have a bit of a look. Earlier it was up for the day. We're back up to around $107 an ounce after dropping as low today as 104, I think it was, 103.89 earlier. China is on holidays, right?
Yeah,
It's Chinese New Year. So the market's closed, the Shanghai exchange is closed, and nobody's buying at the moment because they're out doing the celebratory things that only happen during Chinese New Year. And they do that for 10 days. I think
23rd of February, right? They're coming back.
Yeah. So that'll be the day to watch when the markets in China reopen again, because they'll be able to start buying. There is also some interesting dates or interesting other marks around that date. That is that the demands for silver this month, the people who want to pick up the physical silver after being in the futures market, they're going to want to collect, and the banks are going to need that silver. And of course, there are bigger collection months coming up, May being another one. So I think that is all going to lead us to a bit better deal in a month, maybe. I did say by the end of February we might see 200 US. I'm not saying we won't see it by then, but I'm saying it's looking a bit shaky. Yes, Donna, Australia will definitely be the test case for One Nation when they get in. Let's hope that they produce a much better government than that which we get in Western Australia. Although Victoria, I was shocked to see this come up. Victoria has just lost the Phillip Island Grand Prix after it's been there for over 3 decades. I was at and worked at the first 2 Australian 500cc motorcycle Grand Prix down at Phillip Island. Dorna, the company that runs motorsport, basically, the World Superbike Championship and everything that you see on TV and the big boys, is run out of Phillip Island. I can't understand what's gone on there unless somebody said they were agitating to get the race at Albert Park. That would be insanity to have a motorcycle race around Albert Park. At least in the cars, they have some protection, Doris. You know, when they hit the walls right beside them. Motorcycle riders tend to splatter when they hit those concrete emplacements, or their body tends to work a little bit like an onion on a grater when they go up against the fences. So whoever's come up with an idea of running these bikes around Albert Park, you deserve to be put on the first most powerful race bike there is and sent off around the track to run a good lap and just see how that goes. Where is the race going to go? We're going to lose it to Australia. There was some talk, I think Sydney tried to steal it many years ago when it was still a 500cc Grand Prix. And in fact, that was the reason that the current Sydney, whatever it's called, racetrack out east, west, whatever it is, was built. It was built specifically to try and steal the 500cc World Motorcycle Championship race from Victoria and get it to New South Wales. And it failed. Bob Barnard, I want to say, is the bloke who built that. Who says I haven't been hanging around motorsport for years? I've got another thing I want to show you, Doris. I was talking about councils, and God knows you've had a bit of work with councils and in your area around Melbourne, particular Stonington Council, which isn't your area, admittedly, but Stonington Council are always standouts when they're trying to.
They do stand out, absolutely. They do stand out. I've got a couple of my friends that live in Stonington Council and have had some very interesting dealings with that particular council.
They're the ones that were going to tax people for changing the oil of their car in their driveway.
Yes,
all that sort of stuff. Well, Perth Council have gone one up. Perth Council have, just watch this.
Can you hear that? That is the sound of a council or a government that does not want homeless people sleeping under this bridge. So we've been told that under this bridge there is probably the first example I've ever heard of. There it is. That is an audible anti-homeless device. Hostile architecture built in. So what they've done is installed some kind of device that is emitting a high-pitched buzzing noise, a shriek. It's really piercing. You can really, it's almost painful. And that's the whole idea. That is the point.
I won't let you suffer it any further, but it's exactly the point. That whole piece goes on for about 4 minutes, and by the time you get to the end of it, he has done it in different stages, so he's been there over a prolonged period of time, and he's describing his legs going weak, he's being disorientated by it. The bridge that this was installed under, and he couldn't find where that noise was coming from. I can tell him it was coming straight out of the overhead lighting. So they installed all that shit in the lighting rigs.
Do we know how much this little exercise prototype cost?
Not yet. The port or the authority, the transport authority, were questioned about who installed it, and they have since turned it off. The guy who did that report put that report up Monday night, and the thing was turned off on Tuesday morning. And they deftly hand-passed it to the Perth City Council, who said, Perth City Council told us to install that there. Perth City Council have come out and said, we just don't want people antisocial behaviour, people hanging around the bike track and all that. Apparently a little while ago, it was a small tent city down along there because there are so many homeless in Perth, and it was a safe place to go.
As they are in every state.
Yeah. And so now the council is installing that kind of a device. And I wouldn't be at all surprised. Let me know, folks, if you are experiencing that in any other state. I wouldn't be at all surprised in parts of Queensland. Certain councils might be employing this, but I hope not. At any rate, we should try and find out exactly how much that little, if it was an experiment, cost and what they plan to do with it now.
I think we need to please explain and how exactly that funding has been allocated, and could it actually have been used to help the homeless? Yeah,
it is. Well, we know the governments are not here to help us, folks.
No.
They speak with forked tongue, and we've just got to wake more of the neighbours up who still believe the government for whatever reason. I think there is more and more people joining us every day. I think there's more and more truth being exposed on a daily basis. The Epstein Files is doing it in certain ways, but I also subscribe to the theory that the guy who sent this in to me put forwards, and that's Apthralia, home of the Freemason cacistocracy, but we are an apathetic mob. There are so many people out there who, even when you tell them the truth and it's so convincing and they understand it and they say, yes, I believe you, but there's nothing I can do about it. They make the excuses. We've got to stop the excuses. You can do something other than make an excuse. You can come and join us, and we make the best excuses in the world. But they're because we've tried everything. We don't excuse our own inaction. We excuse the actions of others, probably more often than we should.
That's true. That's true.
Doris, I love you dearly.
I just want to tell you that I have been watching some of the parliamentary questions of late and listening to the ABC radio, and the politicians are doing a very good job of exposing themselves of late. They're doing a brilliant job.
Yeah,
I'll take it on notice, Carl.
You'll take that on notice. Good on you. Thanks, Doris. Great, love you.
Love you right back.
Beautiful. Don't forget Truth Seeker TV. We're streaming there live on Rumble now. Doris and Becky O, part of the team there. And it's always great to have them come along and join us, as it is always nice to have you joining us. I'm sorry for the stuff up with the times earlier tonight. I don't know why that happened. You shouldn't have been told that I was starting an hour and a half practically earlier than I normally would, because I wasn't. Why wasn't I? Well, because I hadn't made this.
We all live in a cacistocracy, a cacistocracy, a cacistocracy.
And it is a cacistocracy. I love it. Now, if you want to, you can go to our merchandise shop, merch.vofhq.com. I'm not sure if Vince has done a shirt yet, but we do have a cup and a few other bits and pieces with cacistocracy things on it. When I say we have a few things, we've got a few different cacistocracy things you can look at. Government by the worst people. I personally like this one, cacistocracy, shit people running shit government, weaponize your vote, stop shit people running shit government. That would look good on your coffee cup. What else looks good on your coffee cup? Well, the white version of that comes up pretty nicely on your coffee cup. If I put it up here, it just pops up over me. But that comes up pretty cool. And cacistocracy is a real word. It will be a conversation starter in your office or home whenever you roll the cup out. So feel free, go and check that out. Vince has also made some changes to the Land of the Fee design that we had for our shirts, where you can now see the second E. It's not sort of blocking out Tasmania too badly. And thank him for the work he's done on that. Vince has been unwell the last, well, all week, essentially. So he is back on his feet today, folks, but I would ask you to put him in your prayers. Don't like it when he goes down. And today's the first day he hasn't felt like he's had, appendicitis. He said he's been feeling like he's had appendicitis. He doesn't have appendicitis, it's something else, but that's the sort of feeling he was into. So great to have you back on your feet, brother, and thank you for all the work that you are doing. It is truly magnificent. I wanted to play one. I was going to say goodbye, but there's one important thing that I have forgotten. Tulsi Gabbard appeared in the White House overnight, and she had some pretty startling things to
go
say.
Over the key findings from the House Intelligence Report, which investigated the claims that were made by an intelligence community assessment ordered by President Obama and published in January of 2017. First, Putin's principal interests relating to the 2016 election were to undermine faith in the U.S. democratic process, not show any preference of a certain candidate. In fact, this report shows Putin held back from leaking compromising material on Hillary Clinton prior to the election, instead planning to release it after the election to weaken what Moscow viewed as an inevitable Clinton presidency. In the January 2017 intelligence community assessment that President Obama ordered, John Brennan, who was CIA director at the time, and the intelligence community intentionally suppressed intelligence that showed Putin was saving the most damaging material that he had in his possession about Hillary Clinton until after her potential and likely victory. The report goes into great detail about the information that Russia and Putin had on Hillary Clinton, which included possible criminal acts like secret meetings with multiple named U.S. religious organizations in which State Department officials offered, in exchange for supporting Secretary Clinton's campaign for the presidency, significant increases in financing from the State Department.
Tulsi Gabbard spoke for near 40 minutes and listed the crimes that have been committed by Obama, Clinton, Brennan, and that entire crew. She also listed the crimes that have been committed and exacerbated by the lies in the media regarding the 2016 election and the 2020 election. There are some startling names that have been released. Treason has been mentioned in the same name as Obama and both Bill and Hillary Clinton, Brennan and others. For those people who didn't believe when you told them that the election was rigged, for those people who didn't believe that the truth could ever come out, today is a day to celebrate, because the truth is clearly evident. Clearly evident. They have the suppressed reports written in their own hand, practically, outlining the crimes they're going to commit. It's all there. As we've heard before, they have it all. Now, I would highly recommend you go and check out that press conference from the White House. It is enlightening, to say the least, and it is uncontestable, whichever way, from those people who say, just sour grapes, Trump lost and he didn't like it. He didn't lose. It was stolen, and they can prove it. They can also prove that the lies and deception created through the Steele dossier, perpetrated by Obama down, had real consequences for the American economy, real consequences for the American people, and obviously serious consequences for President-elect and then President Donald Trump in his first term, including 2 impeachments. Do you understand that a couple of Pulitzer Prize-winning journalists got their Pulitzer Prizes for writing absolute bullshit provided to them from the Hillary, the Brennan, the Obama camp, and were given Pulitzer Prizes to propagate the lies? Out of shame, should they wish to pretend they didn't know, out of shame, they should hand those Pulitzer Prizes back. At the very least, they should be taken back by the issuing agent. It's bloody disgusting, but it's all coming out, folks. Drib by drab by drib by drab. And eventually, so much of it is going to be out there that even the dickheads on the road aren't going to be able to avoid the truth.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back. Does anybody else want to stay? Let's ride!
We all live in a kakistocracy, a kakistocracy, a kakistocracy.